So currently we're recording, screen's blacked out, but the mic is muted. We're about to go, are we live on YouTube already?
Yeah.
And we're recording. So the camera is good, mic is on. Chair, you have the floor.
Okay, call to order this meeting, March 10th, 2026 of the Board of Trustees for the Public Defender Service Corporation. Shane, can we do a roll call?
Yes, sir. First, I'll call Chairman Attorney Black.
Here,
Chairman Attorney Moots. Here. Oh, sorry, Vice Chairman, excuse me. Trustee Hernandez.
Present.
Thank you. Trustee King, Attorney King. Okay, we'll move on. Trustee Donna Munya Kanata, I believe she is off item. Do we have her? She logged on?
She's going to log on.
Okay, she'll log on. Trustee Attorney Paris. Here. Then Trustee Dr. Woodman. Okay.
with that, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
And all notices went out for this meeting in accordance to the law.
Yes.
Moving on, I think order of business is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Everybody had a chance to review them. Does anybody have any questions related to the minutes?
Meeting.
Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. 5. Okay. Motion passes. Move on to the next thing here. Resolution 101-26 relative to changes of the Public Defender Service Corporation bylaws regarding its board of trustees.
Yeah, so if I can, this is just a draft resolution. The board had already approved the amended bylaws. So this is just for the board to review. If there's nothing wrong with it, you can go ahead and approve it, and we'll move forward to the therapy.
Are there any questions related to the? Is there anybody that needs a recap or anything? Not the specific. Okay, then is there a motion to adopt these bylaws?
So it was approved at the last board meeting? This is just approval of the resolution.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
That's, I was just a little. But. Is there? Point in the resolution that says when we adopted it? This is duly adopted, so the vote was taken and approved, but I know that it's adopted when Shane signs it. Right, but does it, we can add a whereas. I would, yeah, I would like to move that we add a whereas, it just notes when the board voted. Yeah, and then other than that, I think fine. Okay.
Is there a second to that motion? All in favor of amending the resolution such that we include another whereas to illustrate when the board voted on the bylaws. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So pass. Yes, you'll,
Yeah, we'll
present
make
us
the
with that.
changes and we'll send it out for.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Getting into, the fiscal year 2027 budget proposal here. We have a lot of attachments here, so, I don't know if Goody's gonna be presenting that or.
Well, we can, quite straight up, you know, I'm not saying food. Actually, what we wanted to do is maybe if, the executive had anything to open with, and then we can kind of walk you through what we did with the 26 budget and kind of going forward. And then,
Yes, this being my first time sitting in this seat here, I'm happy to hear 2026 and compare it to what you got.
so yeah, I'll leave any opening.
Okay, well, basically, this is your first budget that we presented to this board. We'll provide the information from last year's budget. It's basically a rollover budget. Obviously, you know, we started running the private attorney panel. So that's the budget that's really the most speculative, because we're only really getting a handle on how much or how little the courts actually pay the attorneys, experts, and investigators. And so, you know, obviously, as we're trying to raise the bar, we're encouraging the path to use investigators a lot more. I think the clients represented by PAP attorneys should get the same, or expect the same level of service that public defender and clients get. So that includes investigators as well as experts. And know that there've been some significant increase recently where experts were used, and historically PDSC's budgeted for experts. Perhaps never really, you know, we weren't budgeted for experts who have this year. And then historically, the client service trust fund, which is really that fund that was created by the legislature to pay for indigent defense experts and investigators. You know, we haven't had to tap on it yet, but that's going to be something that we might have to do down the road, because it's kind of speculative in terms of what our expert fees and investigator costs are going to be in the next fiscal year. But when you get to the PAP budget, you'll see that it's based on prior year request by the court and also actual expenses, I think, as far as FY 2025. So we have some of that data. Other than that, really, each division probably only has maybe 1 or 2 additional staffers at the most, and you know, we weren't sure what the budget was going to look like, so we're really not in a position to grow yet. And so once we figure out how things are working out with Pathland, we'll definitely look forward to growing in the future. We have some unfilled positions that we're, you know, going to fill hopefully before the end of the year, like with the social worker position. That's really important. Like, unfortunately, right now, we only have 1 social worker. We have a vacant position that we really need to get filled. And I mean, our social workers doing far more than just helping our criminal clients, right? Our social workers helping, like one of the cases where we're helping is you know, a senior citizen who's disabled, trying to get them housing, who is, you know, different from birth. And so we're also working on those kind of things as well. And so I know that we'll get to that with CLC's gonna, with that civil law center is gonna be requesting a social worker. That's very important with the clients that they have, whether they're our senior citizens or victims of domestic violence, our veterans, as well as any other indigent clients who need help, right? And so I think the social worker, there's definitely more to. And I think that's about it for the new hires. So we're hopeful that, you know, we think it's a pretty conservative budget, other than the mandated increases to the increments and items like that. It really is almost, you know, bare bones. And I think it only represents like 8%. Is it 8% change or 4%? 8% increase from last year's request? Okay. Will you walk through?
Yeah, I'm just gonna watch this. Okay. Okay, if we can go to page 12. And it's also page 12 in your handout. Did you guys get a blowout version? It's a really small. Right, but we'll go to page. Okay. So try to fit, can you fit the whole page on this? This would just be the breakdown. Or you can just scroll down. So what we have here is it's a combined budget digest form that just kind of shows across the 4 divisions. And as we're moving forward with reorganizing pursuant to 3840, our law, it looks as if PDSC, the criminal PD division side, has the biggest budget, but we're essentially gonna move the admin division out of the PD so that all the support services are. So it is the biggest budget, but going through it, in totality, for personnel costs, we're asking for 10.2 million or 10.3 million this year. Operationally, combined 3.21 million. Can you scroll down this? And generally, we don't have any utilities because it's in our rent, but this year we do have 15,000 for capital outlay for some renovations, and we can ask Carol to go through some of those for the details. But altogether, we're looking at a request of 13.259 million. Scroll down to the next page. So this is just a short analysis of the difference between FY26 and FY27 requests. So the first chart you'll see on the top is our FY27 request. The second chart below it is what we requested in FY26. Now, these amounts are what the previous board had approved, right? It'll be different than what the legislature approved, but this is at least where the board started us off. So you're looking at 3.2 total for FY27 and 12.3 for FY26. Now, if we scroll down, the next chart just gives us the monetary difference of the budget. So we're looking at about 951,000 there as a total increase across all 4 divisions, right? The breakdown in each of the categories. So the top line will be personnel. And personnel usually ranges between 75 to 80% of our budget, depending on how fluctuations go with attrition or any recruitment efforts that we're making. Operations, you'll see that there's a slight decrease on the PD side, a slight increase on the APD side and CLC side. The biggest increase for operations will be on the PAP side. Walking through PD, we made some adjustments in our procuring of supplies and whatnot. We'll see a fluctuation that year to year based on cycles of replacing equipment like computers and things like that. On the APD side, we did include this year budget for expert witness. This year, APD did have the necessity for an expert witness for a trial. So we included a $30,000 budget for that. It matches what the public defender and criminal side has. And then for the operations on the PAP side, the largest increase in the 300,000 is due to the increase of what we're asking for the court appointed fees. And we did ask for a separate budget of approximately 100,000 for expert witnesses, investigators, that we can allocate towards that. We're trying to, as we get more experience for the billings, shore up what the numbers look like. We're basing a lot of our estimates on what previous budgets of the judiciary had for the court appointed fees. We are expecting a little bit of a spike in this first year because we're not sure of the totality of what we're going to inherit from the judiciary based on the deadline that was given in the Budget Act for the cutoff of the fees. So we're still working through that as the PAP comes in and turns in documentation. So that is the bulk of the PAP increase there. So moving forward, depending on how things go, what Steve was talking about earlier, depending on how the legislature handles our budget, there might be need for alternatives. We cross that bridge, I guess, when we get there. But in totality, we're looking at 951,000 in total. That comes out to the last chart, which is the percentage difference
between the budgets, which on the bottom right cell gives us an 8% total increase that we're requesting from FY 26 to FY 27. Of that, I believe about 65% of that or 64% of that is related to personnel. We did fill a lot of vacancies that we had approved in our FY 26 budget. And we're also requesting for social work positions and I believe firming up the positions we have. So that's the main totality of what we're looking at. As far as operational budgets, we are transitioning through basically in the procurement process for the case management system. We're in the planning phases of that. We do have budget in the 26 and 27 cities. We'll see where the procurement process is. But as far as major expenditures, that's kind of what we have found at the moment. So in essence, we did a similar presentation for the last board. I mean, took a look at it. If there's any, for instance, if there's any questions you had on operations, what we did to either cut back or what we're adding into it, we can definitely go down into each of those. The other format is just having each division walk through what major things are working on to try to work through. So it'll really be at the preference of the board on which way they want to go. We could go line item by line item through every 96A form and everything, if you prefer. That's what the 103 pages are. Any which way we want to go, you know, we can.
Either clear what it is going to be oversight is still what they're thinking for the money that's available.
Well, I know we're gonna try to meet with, right, Senator later
Yeah.
in the week.
Yeah, she's definitely interested on what we're gonna ask for.
Right,
but
yeah.
We wanted to go through with the board first.
Doing this is making a lot of noise about. The increase.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's that next, cut in, which would be like number 80.
Mhm.
And the pond.
Yeah, so I mean, I know when we submit, we'll also suggest other alternate sources of revenue. I mean, previously the path was like 100% from the client service trust fund. But now that 1.6 million of that budget is assumed by the general fund, if the client service trust fund remains as solvent as it has in the past, and you know, they're gonna make us use some of that for experts and for investigators, and also maybe for unexpected increase in the court-appointed fees. I mean, court-appointed fees are at a historic high right now due to the way that the prosecution division is running things. So there are far more trials now because of an unwillingness to resolve the matter in a, you know, in a reasonable way, right? And then are you actually collecting those fees? No, no.
Collecting.
The fees. So there's an increase in the amount that you're, the accounts receivable.
Yeah, that's receivable. Yeah, that's. Yes, well,
Essentially,
the client service trust fund, yeah, the court completely manages that, so we're just tracking. Historically, they bring in about 1.4 million a year. So I don't know, just tracking that rate. But right now, if they took out the 1.6 million that the court-appointed fee that cost historically, then, you know, there's some money to cover any shortages that we get from the general fund. Hopefully, you know, we'll have language that will allow us to get a piece of that if, you know, we can't get fully funded by the general fund.
and that was kind of the intent behind our request for the path for court-appointed fees is, I mean, if there is a cut to be had, and it is kind of with court-appointed fees, the fail-safe would possibly be tapping, I mean, anywhere from like $500,000, right? From the client services trust fund. Should we expend all of our budget? It's us.
Yeah, it's still under. And that's why if you look at our budget, right, it's what 65% is personnel, but ordinarily it's like 75 to 85% is personnel, and the rest is our operational costs are really high because of the court-appointed fees. It falls under operation, it's an operational expense. And so that's what I'm kind of worried about the legislature when they cut they won't cut personnel, but they'll cut operational expense, but if they cut our operational expenses too much, then we won't be able to, pay the private attorneys, so that's something we'll have to explain. We're gonna meet the senators, explain to them like why we need a larger than ordinary operational. But
It was either we kind of get the funding up front or come up with some alternatives, so we can use it for short, for those fees.
I just had a question in regards to, is there a transition from the court, what the court is doing previously from the PAC to what we're gonna do now? And then I'm looking more as operations, like how is that transition gonna work out? I think the concern is I know it's a big question mark with what the money situation is gonna be. But is there a structure in place to address like all the transition things that need to happen so that my concern is if the PAT, but these like the operations part, if there is we don't know, right, if we need more money, if we need less money, I just don't know if that's something that's in place for that transition.
yeah, so what we're projecting is, so the court really covered the first quarter of this fiscal year. So we believe the 1.4 million we have to cover the rest of the year will be sufficient. But if it's not, we're definitely gonna go knocking on the doors of the judicial council and asking them to fund the difference.
It was a big amount from that first quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they were tracking around,
800,000.
Is the goal to zero it out so that we get a clean slate with the transition, or is that?
This is already underway.
Yeah. Yeah, and also that the client service trust fund it's gonna renew annually every year just because of the different fees that go into it. So it really generates 1.4 million a year. But it's not enough to pay for PAP, but it's enough to help offset some of the costs. So we definitely need general fund obligation, hopefully, I guess in the amount of what, 1.6, right? And if we need anything more, then we would tap into the client service trust.
Is the court, I don't know that I know, are they statutorily prohibited from spending the trust fund on anything other than assigned counsel? Or are they gonna spend it on other stuff?
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Well, they have three.
yes,
Right.
us, indigent, council fees, interpreters and experts, and also Erica's house. The
So-
Erica's house gets separate funding. as well.
They get a direct appropriation. But I mean, majority of them, went to Board of Fund documents, based on what they have in their budgets and
Right,
their financials.
since they no longer feel responsible. Private attorney panel, I was wondering if they were looking to reallocate some of that money with their other
Oh, yeah,
projects.
we haven't, they would have to change the law. I'm sure we would show up and that's what I'm. Oh, no, so what happened was so I think it was all court fees and, that were increased after 2002, go to the client service trust. fund.
Right. But it is within it, you said some of it's for the private attorney panel, some is for interpreters, some of it's for experts. And Erica's house. Within that, does it set a percentage of it?
Yeah.
So if they wanted to, they could move more money to Erica's house
That's correct.
and more money to the interpreters, leaving us
Yeah.
far less.
The issue is you never know. They don't tell you what,
Yeah.
Right, but
They could
they
enter.
could.
Yeah.
every time I listen to the Chief Justice talk about this bill, he talked about how he had other uses for the fund and he needed to be out of the business there for lawyers. So my concern is, we don't have any guarantees from them that they're gonna have that money available for us if we're short.
That's,
I think that's what we're trying to make sure we don't get short by having sufficient
Right.
funds for PDSC.
But the only reason I was asking was, Shane was talking about a fallback position.
Yeah.
And my view is we shouldn't have that as a fallback that we tell the legislature.
Right.
Because it may not be there and unless they're willing to live with what the judiciary.
Is there a time frame for us to find out what that? But when the court hands it off, what that certain, amount would be,
So it's been handed off.
oh, it's been.
Yeah.
The bag, all the money that comes in, they get.
And that's why I said, that's why I was wondering if it's zeroed out, like, there's nothing
Oh,
left
yeah.
over to,
The court,
yeah, for the court.
I think
Okay.
they stopped paying anybody to file the claim after,
So right now, the public defender's in charge of paying out the attorneys,
for, you know.
okay? And is but previously before, and I apologize if, just the education process is, previously before, the court will be handing out the payments, right? It didn't come through the public defender's office
No,
historically,
yeah.
but now we are.
That's-
But I guess that's the question with, do we have, procedures in place, that the court was doing to pay off for us to, okay,
Oh, yes.
okay,
Yeah, so I mean, we have procedures to handle everything since 10-1, right?
Okay.
That's the question.
perfect, yeah.
Yeah, we do. It's already in place. Audrey's already been doing it. She's linked up with our fiscal area. That was part of the reason why we invested a little bit more in the admin side of the house, to make sure that, because we weren't sure
Yeah.
exactly how many people.
Yeah.
But instead of putting it all in PAP, it's also part of our admin.
Because the judiciary had how many people that were doing this?
Yeah, they had two totally, they had the clerk side and then they had that financial side.
Yeah,
That allocated employees to the
so
process.
that's why I was concerned about the operational budget, if that's something we need to increase or.
I mean, and we stepped it in, we put, just until we're done setting all the procedures up and functions for PAP, we put some of it in admin. Now, at such point that we get to an area where it starts exceeding
Yeah.
what we were thinking of. One of the things we looked at was, I'm assuming we pay faster, right?
I think that was a concern.
any slower.
Yeah.
So in that case.
It's not slower, yeah.
But, as most things, right, if you do get a quicker turnaround, you get more billing, right?
Right.
up front. So we're waiting for that wave if, you get any, and the courts, I think they kind of paid what they said they were gonna pay. So all the billings now are coming out here. Specifically the challenges that Audrey has trying to reconcile was to make sure, statutorily, the position that we have of paying things prior to 10-1, that we kind of hold on that for now so we can reconcile. And to that point, the reconciliation of that number of what that may be, I mean, we can only, based on what we've seen, guess that it's pretty heavy. We don't know for sure, so I'm not gonna give a number.
Yeah, we know that the court spent between 1.5 and 1.6 million a year.
And that's the base, right?
So we're just hoping it's close to there, but what we're finding is like, they didn't really, like, for example, if we do a 2-week trial. And it costs like 5,000 over the cap, they weren't paying it, they would just pay the cap.
Yeah, they would never.
They can do it, but I don't think we can get away with it.
The other thing they did though was, they just delayed your payment until the funds came into the.
Yeah.
Client services, so we would get in our firm, we would submit bills and sometimes it wouldn't be paid until the next fiscal year. I mean, it took sometimes 6-9 months to get paid because they weren't concerned.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas we're not gonna be able to do that.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
I'm not even sure we can count on what they show as their expenditure from fiscal year to fiscal year. Because I think they just batch build stuff until it fit. Because, I mean, when I left, I had court appointed fees that were over a year old, when we never got paid.
I guess that's part of the reason we were concerned about their $800,000 level for the first quarter.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's a lot of backlog or if that's really what they're gonna be
Yeah.
paying for. So
Yeah, I don't run now.
we need to have it secured a little.
So that was really the cutoff point. So the court paid for all legal services performed before October 1. And we pay for all legal services performed after. So, hopefully, I mean, the court really should have paid off everything that was
Yeah.
outstanding.
And that pot is for investigators and, experts, right?
Well,
The request that we have?
Yeah.
Well, we have a separate line item for these. We're tracking, the court did budget and did have in their financials separate for expert witnesses and for investigators outside of the court. So we tried to structure it that way. So our request for the actual court appointed fees kind of matches up with what happens. But if we look at just what they paid out, 800,000 in the first quarter, if that's actual fact, like, the floodgates open, I mean, that's 3.2 million a year. That's nothing close to what we're asking. So we're hoping that that was just an influence and that it kind of dwindles down after that. Probably by the end of third quarter, we'll have a better handle of what was 2 quarters. Should have kind of like brought up any arrears that might be out
Well, but we haven't exhausted our allotments
there. No,
year to date, so we're still,
the first quarter that the court did handle will keep us running all the way through this fiscal year. It'll be next fiscal year when we have more data than.
2027.
What does it look like to actually get an expert through us? You know, on a PAP, like, is there
So,
a application or?
can I talk?
Yeah.
Well, I've been burned for 20,000 because I had a murder expert, forensic expert in it, and I couldn't. We could only bill up to October 1st, prior, all the billing we had prior, and he didn't give us an invoice until right before trial. And so the court paid for that, a measly little $1,500, and then, we had to bill the rest of it, and we just paid it, correct? We just paid it 20,000.
Just in case the chair was suddenly asking, how does he get an expert if he gets appointed?
Oh,
in
you
case,
just,
No, that too. I mean,
you find one, because we have a list of what you need, and then you just tell the court, I've got this, and then the billing goes through.
The court has to still grant.
They still have to grant it.
so you still have to apply to the court.
That's
That's
kind of debatable at this point.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering, yeah,
since I think we're paying for it,
Yeah.
probably
Why do
do
they
it
have to? Yeah.
internally.
that's true.
But if it's something like a forensic expert that's sort of foundational, it may be something that we need the court's help on because the speedy trial clock may continue to run if we're asking for a second opinion or something. So it's complex, but yeah.
You may need the extension, but you're ready to the court should be. I guess I'll make a determination.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
But ultimately, we can just send Steve a memo and ask for an expert and cover it.
What about for the
That's what,
private panel?
Same.
Same.
yeah, I mean, internally, PDSC's been budgeting experts for the last 5 years, so that's why we had money to pay for APD's expert, but the PAP, I don't know. They haven't been, I think they're gonna start using experts more with this.
Well, I can tell you, like, you know, applying the report and all that sort of stuff, it just is more difficult, right? It's online to use, so
Yeah.
there's a culture of not using it that's been developed for years.
that's true, it's true.
You know.
Just like investigators.
Yeah.
They weren't used to asking, but now,
Mhm.
just yesterday, they asked for three.
There didn't used to be any
Yeah.
investigators.
Yeah, I think we
mean-
have we're up to 7, I
Yeah, we didn't used to, like, as a appointed counsel, there just weren't people to hire, and there weren't experts.
We're trying to do a new culture.
Yeah, so, I mean,
But a new culture means new fees.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
You know,
But
so that one
What
expert
what
that,
I'm trying to explain to the attorney is use an investigator at $75 an hour and not your $150.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and so that's what we might do is we're gonna, we're looking at different jurisdictions that actually set caps for certain types of experts, like the forensic pathologist who, I mean, it was great because they didn't look for not guilty in a homicide case, but it was like $1,000 an hour, right? So, some jurisdictions set caps,
In the future, though, I guess if we're not going to court and goes through the public defender, it should be a lot quicker,
Oh, the,
and that shouldn't be a hold of. I think my fear is, experts are holding up, the date. the
Oh.
deadline.
because the payment,
Yeah, because of the payment aspect of,
yeah, I don't, and sometimes like you'll want to consult an expert and realize that experts bad. So you won't actually retain one, but once you made a motion with court, it's public knowledge and they usually say, well, now we don't want an expert and then try to get them. So we're gonna try to treat like, the way firms will do it, we'll set up a procedure where they can consult an expert and see once you
That'll be good, yeah.
because a lot of cases, you don't really want an expert.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt.
for you all,
It's like directly in line with the sort of recommendations that the Sixth Amendment Center made as well, to make sure that the PAP attorneys have the same access to everything for the defender and APD has.
we kind of tried to consolidate at least first year into one. So as we build the structure behind it. Yeah, I mean, at some time, we'll probably come up with an equilibrium from costs, but at least right now, with the number of cases. Safety. We're hoping not, but yeah, that's our ask as far as the court of funding. So,
Is the court still, people, or do they have a list of volunteers
For what?
for the appointed council?
Oh, there's a list.
There's not a list of volunteers.
Well, I think they're
You
using the
apply.
have list of the core, list of perhaps exhausted. Yeah, I think they're going, there's a list of volunteers. So, yeah, we're reaching out like some firm that they're willing to do it as long as we don't give them more than 7 years or something. So I think we approach the firms and say like, come on, what's your capacity? Because everyone, it's 150 an hour, right? So it's.
The people that don't do much criminal work.
Yeah, so the ones that do criminal work, but they don't want to join the panel because they're gonna get overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
If we can let them know, like, just tell us how many you can handle a year. We'll try to accommodate you.
Gary, do you know what the numbers are on criminal, of the list for criminal misdemeanors and felonies?
Oh,
How many
yeah,
people are available?
okay. I do know that number. Right now, there are 6 active felony attorneys. I'm sorry, there are 6 attorneys in the felonies, but only 2 are active. As of this one. Heather Kittigwa and Mark Smith. Sam Tucker and Christine Borja have an appointment pause until March 31. Rochelle Canto has an appointment pause until January 2027. And Terry Timlin has an appointment pause until August of this year.
Some places will have 2 people on the list, and then they go to,
To the virtual volunteer. Yeah.
which is basically everybody involved. See, that gets more expensive. Because we will do criminal, we have to spend a lot of time. Figuring things out, yeah, and it's $150 an hour.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're working on creating that list of volunteer firms and how many cases are willing to build. So we started with the Guambar listing, certain firms and attorneys say that they do criminal defense or federal criminal cases, so we're going down that list first. I don't know if the court uses that list from the choose which attorneys to give it, so I think we just go to the general bar. But yeah, that's a big concern.
Okay, well. Is there any other questions from anybody about the budget proposal? Anybody online that I can't see?
Mr. Chair, I just had maybe a couple questions, if you don't mind. Yeah, thanks for the presentation and the packet. I just wanted to get on record the assumed contribution rate that we use for the retirement fund that's built into the personnel costs. Shane, do you have that?
Good to get so.
Yeah, it's
Remember what the percentage was? It was 30.77. 30.77.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. And then my other question was just related to the total operations for the PAP. I think I could hear, there seems to be uncertainty built into the budget request, just as it relates to, I guess, not having enough experience with the billing, which I think is a good thing. I think building in cushion is also. But as it relates to the operations, could you clarify if the judiciary, when they did have operation of the app, that they paid for investigators, or they didn't?
Yeah, what I have in front of me, we did take a look at what judiciary filed for FY24 and FY25, but let's take FY24 for instance. in that budget, they had a separate line item of 1.65 million in their 24 requests for court appointed fees, and a separate request of 40,000 for investigators. And I think also in their FY26 request, if I'm not mistaken, they had their statement of revenue expenditures and change in fund balance. They did they had unaudited financials for FY24 for 30,000 for investigator claims. So we did see in their budgets and some of their financials that they did separate it out, specifically for investigators and the expert witnesses. But if you were to track, their requests were typically 1.65 million just for court appointed.
Okay, no, thanks. Because I know we already adopted a fee schedule for investigators, so I just was wondering if that also was part of the increase for the PAP for fiscal 27, if our fees were commensurate or maybe a little bit more. I'm just looking to see if that's another avenue to justify the increase in the PAP budget.
I think, do we know exactly how much we paid out?
Okay, so far we've paid out about $900 for investigators. And that's for January and February so far.
Yeah, just as what we've received already, so.
Yeah.
But like what Audrey was saying, there was a request for.
Yeah, 3 yesterday and 2 last week, so hopefully they'll utilize them.
You know, Dr. Fernandez, in a way, it's kind of a cost saving measure because the way it worked now is if attorneys on the PAP are doing something basic like interviewing people for a bail application, collecting just background information, then the attorney's going to be billing at 150 versus an investigator doing it at a lower rate. So we think there'll be a better result for the attorneys if they use investigators as frequently as public defender does. But also, I think over time, it's going to prove to be cost savings.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. That's the only questions I had. I just generally, I think as we approach the budget hearings, and I think we all know kind of what the timeline is. Legislature's targeting a July 17 vote, which means it's a pretty expedited schedule. I'll note that I think what we had actually received in appropriations from the legislature for fiscal 26 was maybe a little bit closer to 11.7, so a little bit less than the actual request, if I'm not mistaken. So as we kind of approach the budget hearing and the strategy, I think it might be good to also see if there's kind of a reapportioned budget that is based on the actual appropriation versus the actual request. That might be helpful, but I think as it relates to just generally an 8% increase taking over the PAP, I think some uncertainty. Just wanted to say in review of the budget, it seems reasonable. That's all I had, Mr. Fairfax.
And really, I know that the budget authorized level in the budget, right, was one amount. But the legislature authorized us to use prior year unexpended monies, basically the lapse funds, to cover the difference between what the board approved and what the legislature gave us. And so that's why we're going with the board authorized amount.
Do are we gonna have much in terms of lapse funds this year?
Depending on the language, this we were tracking, if we were to track on our expenditures now, and it helps them. What are we looking at as far as totality of lapses?
As of January, we're tracking 500,000 surplus so far. So,
and just to Dr. Hernandez's point, the legislature appropriated us 11.64 million. If we run that against what we're requesting today, it's a difference of 1.6 million. Right, so they did cut us. You know, we were able to operate with the language that we were given for them. And, yeah, that may be a saving grace, but, at the same time, it's, balancing out where the priorities are.
The biggest area where we're gonna have the lapse.
The biggest area for lapses, I think. Did you notice any spike, or was it spread pretty even across the corporation for the lapses?
It's kind of spread out.
It's kind of spread out. Is it more on the personal side or? operations side?
Yeah, I mean, those that were not,
Oh, those that were not filled and
Yeah.
anything that we, yeah, I mean, it comes down to.
Right, but, so, okay, so for fiscal year 26, we filled most of those slots.
Correct, I think it was
So
about.
that should reduce. Because my concern is this year, they're gonna be looking for places to cut. And if they do, like the feds do. And they say that excess, that means we'll need that money next.
Yeah, you're correct. By the time we're done filling all the vacancies, I mean. I want to see at least 80%.
year. I think, you know, I just think we. And this,
Right,
show
right.
that we don't need.
Just guaranteed that we'll.
I'm pretty lucky to have all of our attorney positions staffed up. So we haven't had to have huge 6-month-long gaps in between this attorney and that.
Any other questions? Okay, no other questions, so is there anybody willing to make a motion to approve, this budget proposal? It's presented here.
So Chair, I move to approve the budget as presented by management for fiscal year 27.
In a second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move on. Is there any public discussion?
Actually, Chair, sorry, can I
Sorry.
just wrap up that piece? So on the, sorry, on the back of the attachments. We did attach a draft resolution. We weren't sure of the amount, so.
Oh, okay.
So, if you're willing, or if you'd like to consider this, just to review, if there's any changes we want to make, we can fill in the amounts based on your approval. And then send this out as well. I think that's really the resolution. We usually turn this in with our legislative pack to show that the board has approved our.
And so historically, we don't ask for a lump sum. We have it broken down by divisions.
Yeah.
And the reason we do this really is, well, primarily so that each of the divisions, if they have any lapses, keep those right. So it encourages, you know, the divisions to be a little frugal when they spend, but also to protect the, you know, preserve like the civil law center. It's in the past, certain, you know, they unfunded it. And so we don't want that to happen. So we prefer like a separate allotment for those. So it would be like a, you know, so they do, we have one lump sum and then they say, from this lump sum, this portion goes to is for the CLC and this portion is for PDSC and this portion is for APD and also this portion is for the path.
That's the way the legislature's done it in the budget act anyway, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's gonna be submitted in that manner as a request, rather than just a lump sum. And the other reason is I don't want like them to unfund half and then expect the rest of the corporation to pick it up, right? So.
And then, you know, generally with the budget resolution, of course, if there's any changes that you want, I mean, you can state the changes. Approve the resolution with said changes, along with all the changes and then issue.
This needs to be approved prior to the submission, right? So we still have time, right? Or I don't know when's the submission.
Well, the submission is March 26th,
Oh, March,
so.
okay.
Yeah, if we still needed time, we could continue this meeting somewhere throughout the month, and then come back to, as far as the resolution. So, our deadlines of 26, I mean, based on any substantive changes, we'll just make those in the budget now, but, as far as resolutions concerned, it's.
And those amounts are already your.
Yeah, it'll be represented on the 15th.
Are you asking the vote?
On the resolution, on the language. and resolution.
And then we'll fill in the numbers.
Yes,
The numbers will be filled in based on.
based on what's been approved. Yeah. today.
Is there any concerns with the language of this resolution?
Correct.
No.
There's an attorney to.
Oh, yes, okay, so we've noted attorney areas, and there's an alternative that we've already changed. So we have a P version that we just need to plug numbers in.
We're then concerned about.
Yeah, she got you.
You want to make a motion to approve subject to that?
We've noted that, one of the changes is hard. And it would have been okay if we did bring it.
Yeah, we move forward with it.
But,
So I'm gonna move that we adopt the language of the resolution as proposed in 0-2-26. And that in the fourth whereas clause where there currently are blanks for the amounts, that those be filled in to correspond with the amounts were approved in the budget submission.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I
Okay, motion passes. All right, now moving on to public discussion. Is there any? So the next thing is, before we talk about adjournment, should we talk about what the date of the next meeting should be? So that's what we're doing now.
and just for future, once the meeting is set, we'll of course just plug in before Tuesdays. Okay, you guys can establish. We're required to have it.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
What day is that? The fourth Tuesday?
April 28th.
Yeah, why not? You will.
Don't they can pick any date, though, right?
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah, you can pick, whatever date works, for the board. We can go ahead and do that for our monthly meeting, or like we did for February. We waited until next month. It's really at your discretion. We just put that date.
Even if we're not here, we could still come up with that statement for them, but I don't know. Week of the 12th. I could do it the week before too, yeah. The week of the 12th is.
Or even the Tuesday, the 21st. I'll be on.
Yeah, I leave the next day, so I'll be doing.
Yeah.
April 21st.
The proposal is April 21st for the next meeting.
Yeah,
At the same time,
yeah.
Mhm. What day? April 21.
Tuesday, April.
I just wanted to note that day I'll probably have to step out at 1:30 from that meeting.
Try to get done before then.
Yeah.
We promise.
Okay, so then we'll move to set that date, April 21st date at 12:30 as the next meeting. Is there a second?
Oh.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passed. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.